£3,500 maximum it's cost me to build this entire house. A portaloo that I rented was on the enforcement notice, a bench in the corner of the field, a fire pit. So, I've done my time in prison. I've done 14 days. I loved it. I've got to be honest with you. It was a breeze. I got my own cell during lockdown. There's a TV, a kettle, a bed, hot and cold running water and a toilet. I just went, mate, I don't even have this at home.
Hi guys, welcome back to another Liberation video. Today we are in mid-Wales talking to Eddie.
Eddie's a Scouser living off-grid on his land, and he's got an interesting story, including going to prison for it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Back to it.
So my name's Eddie. I live here in mid-Wales, a place called Mellowcroft. Been here for 17 years. I now have full permission, residential permission to live here, but in the beginning it wasn't quite the same. I grew up in Liverpool. I grew up in a children's home. For me, it's probably it was my certificate through the School of Life. I used it as my degree, my qualification. Growing up in care was not some sad story that, oh, I don't have a mum or dad. It was as funny as hell, and I have some of the most favourable memories of like being a young kid in care. Then I left Liverpool. I headed for Saint-Tropez, the richest square mile of land in the world. And I went to live there. I lived on the beach, just living a very humble beach life, but made loads of really good friends, and I stayed there 12 years. When I eventually did come back to the UK, I didn't really know what to do. I bought a house. I bought in 1995. And I didn't think house prices would go up that much. Well, by 2006, the house prices had gone absolutely ridiculous. I realised I was cash poor and equity rich, and I still wasn't happy. So I quit my job, cashed in my money, got all the money in the bank, bought a motorhome, and decided to try and find myself a life, to buy something that would suit me and the aspirations I'd found in life, especially given that I'd lived in Saint-Tropez. I'd been around rich people most of my life, really, and that wasn't for me. Being wealthy was not my motivation. Being happy was my motivation, and I'm always happy around friends, when I'm building, when I'm creating. Like everybody else, we all realise that there's loads of prohibitions in regards to buying land and to living on it. We all want the good life dream, but how real is that in the UK? We know many people who move to Spain and Portugal to try and achieve that life, because in the UK it's nigh on impossible. I originally bought a piece of agricultural land at auction in 2006. I paid £62,000 for the land, but I knew at the time it was agricultural, and that was agricultural land prices. But in the back of my mind, I'd also done some research, and I knew I was buying an abandoned small holding, which is basically a historical piece of land that used to operate as a small holding up until about circa 1900, when small farming no longer became viable. Agro-farming took over the farming industry, and small holdings like this, you couldn't live on carrots and potatoes, so they gave up their home and moved to the towns and the cities. So to clarify what I bought an abandoned small holding. I didn't just buy a field, I didn't just buy a woodland, and if I had, I would never have felt the entitlement to roll up in a caravan and live on it. I bought something that was historically a small holding, and I fought for the right to reinstate its residential status. And given that conviction, my fight was all that more powerful. I felt like I was just in my fight, so it was like I wasn't going in as the underdog, I was going in as the heavy hitter. The UK literally used to have 100, 200 years ago an abundance of small holdings that have all now disappeared, mostly disappeared by encroachment of larger farms. But if you find a small holding with its original boundaries, forget the fact it doesn't have a house on it. Make it viable again and build a house on it again. That's not development in the open countryside, that's restoration. Okay, so when I bought it, I didn't realise how big it was. I think in total there's just over 12 acres, or just under 12 acres. But I also bought the associated grazing rights, that are historical grazing rights with this patch of land, given that it was a small holding. At the back there's 240 acres of open access grazing. But I've also got 2 quarries and there's just an abundance of stuff out there. Then over the road there's about another 60 acres where there's a big river going down it. I go gold panning down there. So I've got gold pans and stuff. And so there's another like 60 acres over the road. And I never knew they were associated with this. It wasn't until I started reading through the deeds and thinking, oh my God, look at what I've bought. Ooh. In my mind, what I wanted to do was gather together like-minded people, not be a community per se, but act as a community, act as community interests like free community allotments, free use of the land to aspiring artists, musicians, bringing in workshops, experience here. I'm part of the woofing network, worldwide volunteers and organic farms. So I'm a woofer host. I get random emails from people just wanting to come out and help. But my main goal was to really create an environment of off-grid living for creative people. I also like weddings and things like that here. You know, small events, small like yoga events, 5 rhythms dance, music and arts collectives. This is my home. It's basically a lorry, an articulated lorry that I've bought, and I've got all the windows and doors from the skip, and I've clad it all in pallet wood. I've made a 2-bedroomed house with a lounge at the back of it, and I've used for the porch, I've used all of my pine trees. This is just an overall vision that I had. I wanted a shack, somewhere I could feel like a mountain man. I had the vision in my mind before I built it, and it was to be shanty and hillbilly. Shanty is a type of building, by the way. It's to build shanty, it means to build with the materials that are available to you. So this is a genuinely shanty build. I literally haven't bought anything for this building. I made the plastic roofing, but other than that, everything else is even the gutters from the tip, all of the wood from the tip, all of the flooring from the tip. I spent time denailing pallets. I kind of love doing that. Okay, the dragon. I had the dragon commissioned to go on top of the music room. I huffed and I puffed and I struggled. I couldn't get it up there, so it just found its way to the end of the porch there. Up here you've got a staircase. I've just built a boulder staircase going up to a 6-person hot tub, which I run on my 1966 Rayburn. It's via a heat coil. Some people may know it as thermal mass dump. So you get it quite quickly to 40 degrees. And then you've got a hot tub running efficiently on a 1966 Rayburn, a vintage Rayburn. Rayburn's like the working man's Aga. Okay, so I produce my own electricity via solar panels and a small wind turbine. One of the catches with the land is I knew I had spring water coming through the land constantly. And then with my associated rights out on the moors, I've also got 2 wells out there that never dry up. So it tick the boxes for water. But I do have mains water here. I don't use much mains water. I tend to kind of just use the water that's available. The spring water, I use that in teas and coffees and things. I have Wi-Fi, I have a BT landline, and to run my router, I just use a 12-volt battery. That'll keep the Wi-Fi running constantly. Other than that, what you need, just lights and somewhere to charge. There is a theme here. The theme it's from my experiences in Colorado. I spent a lot of time out there, Colorado and New Mexico, and I suppose it's a fun kind of hillbilly, like a hunting lodge. You know, I'm not a hunter in any way, but I quite like the idea of like buffalo horns and a boar's head. By the way, they're antique. They're not. I haven't killed them myself in any way. I've just bought them from a vintage shop. Yeah, I wanted it to be kind of an outdoor-indoor space, because obviously in Wales it rains a lot. It can be quite cold. But sitting here in the summer and in the winter months, it's like, wow, a slice of heaven. You know, it really is. I achieved very simply what I wanted to achieve here. It wasn't like some Cosmo magazine look. It was backwater swamp look. That's what I was going for. I think this build expresses me, who I am as an individual, who my personality has developed into. And we don't get a lot of that in Europe, where we can build a house to express ourselves. You know, there's a very standard monotone way of building in the UK, and unless you've got a bucket load of cash, of course, a hell of a load of cash. But to build something like this, I would say this entire house, start to finish, it couldn't have got £3,500 maximum. It's cost me to build this entire house. So, you know, I've got quite a lot for the money, really. So none of the windows and doors have cost me a penny, nothing. I get it all for free from the tip. my view, isn't it? It's just like, it's epic. It really is epic. So there's a shower room there and a tool shed next door. I've only just, you can see this work's only just been done now with the boulder. I was going for like an Aztec boulder staircase look. A bit uncompleted, but this is my kitchen. It's, ow. It kind of shows you where the lorry's at. It's the shape and the dimension of a kitchen, of a lorry, you know. It's 2.4 meters wide, 12 meters long. This is used as a communal kitchen, to be fair. Yeah, it's all from the tip. You can see it's just a skip kitchen. I haven't bought anything. Honestly, I have not bought anything for in this place. It's all been salvaged. I wanted to build totally with reclaimed materials and free stuff. No, I just wanted to. I didn't want to buy stuff. I don't want to be part of that. I wouldn't respect it anyway if I had a nice IKEA kitchen, you know. What would that going to do to me? It's not, it's not what I want. That's my daughter's bedroom. And I've got a wet room and a bedroom back there and a changing room. It's just kind of like a long hallway. And in here is my lounge. Oh, it's a much cooler space, you know. It's just an add-on. People asked how I've put this on the side of a lorry. It's basically, this is floating, this whole platform. It hasn't got any foundations, it's just sitting on the ground. I've just made a big square box, insulated it all, and sat this building on the ground. Yeah, I mean, like I suppose I do feel spoilt for my views. I tell you what, I don't take this place for granted. I don't take the views for granted. I'm constantly like kind of reminded about how beautiful nature is here. And, you know, being surrounded by wildlife in the way that I am. It's just, there's a real living with it, real in harmony with it. Sounds a bit hippie, but yeah, I've become at one with nature. Basically, I'm the same as it. I am here as part of the nature. And a lot of human beings don't really understand that as humans, we do have our place in nature. And I've created wildlife zones where there needs to be wildlife zones and human habitat zones where there need to be human habitat zones. It's symbiotic, isn't it? You can't just have everything go wild, because that's not living with nature. Yeah, this is my my vintage log burner. She's a beast. She really is an absolute beast. Chop all my own wood. That's a mission. I have to start collecting wood around about September, October, and I'll go at it for like good 2 or 3 weeks. Well, I bought the land in 2006, and up until December of 2013, I never had any trouble whatsoever with the council. No concerns, no letters, no communication. But then in December of 2013, without any previous written communication whatsoever, I received an enforcement notice which gave me 28 days to demolish everything or appeal to the Welsh Assembly. So I made my appeal and they granted me a public inquiry. 2 weeks before the public inquiry, the council withdrew. They withdrew the enforcement notice and subsequently backed out the inquiry. I took them to the High Courts in London and I was awarded £4,500 in costs against them. Right. And then I thought, right, I'll file a full planning application. And just as that arrived on their desk, 2 weeks later, they served me 2 more enforcement notices to run concurrent with my planning application. And these 2 enforcement notices covered the 4-year rule and the 10-year rule. So anything that was built, basically, was to be demolished. Everything and anything. They went for a portaloo that I rented, was on the enforcement notice, a bench in the corner of the field, a fire pit, a stone circle, a recycling point, as well as the other buildings that I'd built, little cabins and the music room and things like that. The tree house was on there. But I realised there was something about the enforcement notice that it was loaded and petty. I own the land, and of course you don't need planning permission to put a footbridge across a ditch, a timber, like pallet footbridge. It's not some arts and crafts design. You don't need planning permission to have a fire pit on your land. It's not even a hole in the ground, it's a fire on top of the ground. So I realised something about them, that they'd fallen into a trap almost of showing their cards of being bullies. And once that was on, I just felt more and more ready to fight. It fueled my fire. It went crazy from there, the 2 enforcement notices. So they refused my planning application. I went to public inquiry and I lost that public inquiry. The council had me over on a few items. The best one they'd done me for was otter and water vole. And they said that their evidence was, and they paid a guy, an expert witness, £10,000, that there had been 1 otter spotted 20 years ago, dead on the road, 3.5 kilometres away from Mellowcroft. Therefore, educational and recreational activities here at Mellowcroft were having an impact on otter and water voles habitat. And he was an expert witness. I don't know if you know what an expert witness is, but you could take a baseball bat to his head and you're not going to change his story. So that was him. They brought out the big gun. 10 grand they paid him to spin a lie. But the same guy, the otter and water vole guy, the same company, they work for the wind turbines out there, who've just put tens of thousands of tons of concrete out right at the river source. And they were coming after me. But no survey for them out there, none whatsoever. The council wanted me to be kicked off. So yeah, I lost the public inquiry because of that. And then I came back here, licked my wounds. Like it's not all joy, happy. So the public inquiry was in 2015. The council then came back after me in 2017 and started a series of court cases against me. Eventually I elected for Crown Court, which I'm sure they loved. So the council, that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted me to be bankrupt and to face their court costs. So yeah, I went to Crown Court, 4-day Crown Court jury trial. There's me standing in a bulletproof screen in the dock for like 18 counts of like the fire pit, the footbridge, recycling point and structures and all individual counts. Jury came back after 4 days and found me guilty. But the judge, he dismissed the jury. In his sentencing, he said, the minimum I can fine you is £100 per offence, but you can't afford that. I'm going to make it £50 per offence or 28 days in prison. I elected for the 28 days in prison because I still wasn't prepared to give up just yet. There's no way. I realised there was things that were smelling rotten about the whole case, and I was beginning to find like major gaps in the council's legal standing. So I've done my time in prison. I've done 14 days. I loved it. I've got to be honest with you. I absolutely loved Cardiff HMP. It was a breeze. I got my own cell during lockdown. And the security guard, he takes me to my cell, opens the door. There's a TV, a kettle, a bed, hot and cold running water and a toilet. I just went, mate, I don't even have this at home. He just closed the door, mate, you cheeky bugger. And off he goes. But for 14 days, I just lay in bed getting meals delivered to my door every day. TV, 24/7, kettle, brew. I even learnt how to cooch the pigeons and feed them Rice Krispies. 14 days, hard labour. So I only had to do 14 because I got out for half for good behaviour. I didn't kick off. In all of that, and before I went to prison, I actually realised that I had enough evidence to go to the police about what the council had done. I discovered that the council had acted as henchmen, well, allegedly, acted as henchmen to get me off my land in the interests of a private developer. I found out the full application for that wind turbine company out there. And 3 months before I ever got the first enforcement notice in December 2013, the wind turbine company met with the council for a pre-application advice meeting, and then 3 months later the council served me an enforcement notice, which is, there's a thing in planning law, it's called material consideration, and the council was supposed to duly materially consider that and inform the judge at the public inquiry that that was a considerational matter, and they didn't. The police have already been to speak to the judge of the public inquiry, who's actually said in her own words, had she known, her decision would quite possibly have been different. So now they've withheld information pertinent to the outcome of a public inquiry. That's fraud, and it's a serious, serious case. It carries up to life in prison, and that would be so funny. The justness of it all coming round full circle and the council being caught out. And to be quite honest with you, what they've done to me, they deserve it. They do deserve it. It's not a fair fight, planning law. It's discriminatory. It's loaded. It's loaded with discrimination and personal views and like obviously friendships and who you know, who you don't know. It's all underhanded and we all know it. Everybody talks about it, red envelopes, brown envelopes. It goes on. It's a fact, it goes on. It's not a conspiracy. It's an absolute fact. Yes, I've won full, unconditional. Well, I actually don't know what to say about that. It's strange. It's left me like in the twilight zone. I couldn't get my head around why I've fought so long for them just to give up on everything. It doesn't matter about the Otter and Watervole anymore. It doesn't matter about my business plan. It doesn't matter about my highway access. It doesn't matter about any planning issues in law whatsoever. They've just given me planning permission to shut me up. So we'll walk up to the music room, show you up there what I've built there. Completely different type of building, not shanty. Come on into the stone circle. There's 13 stones in here. That's aligned to the 13 lunar moons in a year. I don't know if you know, there's 13 full moons in a year. And these stones ascend and descend in order of the lunar cycle. Yeah, it's quite a nice little kind of space. It's a really nice celebration space. A really nice kind of events going on here, acoustics around the fire, you know. Yeah, I started thinning the trees out. I've branched them all from the ground, from like kind of 6 foot up. And then when I did, I discovered there was a nice little area in the middle there where I could put a building, and the land really expressed itself. Actually, there was a hexagonal shape in the ground. It's like, oh, I'm going to build a hexagonal there. I bought 40 tons of cedar tree trunks, and I had them delivered to Mellowcroft. And I, with a wood miser, which is a portable sawmill, I milled everything for this building on site. So it's all been hand milled. I haven't bought any of the wood. Handmade all of the shingles. I have 4,000 handmade wooden shingles up there. The windows, they're all from Yemen. They're Yemenese stained glass windows. And then my whole idea originally with the concept of the build was to create somewhere that you could make music and dance. So I wanted the optimum acoustics. Come up and have a look. Yeah, so this is a real creative room, from like baby yoga to Tai Chi to dancing to recording music. It's multiple usage for a room. I also use it for my silver birch sap water. I hoist my barrel of water up to the roof, and I use gravity feed out to push it through UV light and oscillating filter, which is a process to bottle the water. It's been here now, what, 15 years, this building. So it's done well. It looks as fresh as the day it was built, really. This is a drop-down wall for an outdoor stage, which obviously enables outdoor performances. When there's a lot of people here, all of the land's multi-used up. So these guys are making a music video here as part of the Mellowcroft sessions. I invite musicians and artists to come and do recording sessions here and make a video and basically kind of, you know, write songs and things. So these guys, yeah, they're making a music video to their song. It's a pleasure to provide the facilities for them, really, you know, and they can come away and connect with a space like this. There's various little cabins dotted around. They're basically really low maintenance cabins. My idea was just to provide a good bed and a log burner and maybe cooking facilities. But other than that, it's not all twee. It's very robust. It's very kind of like, it's meant to be used. Go in muddy boots, it's not going to damage the floor. Scratch the walls, it doesn't damage the entire building, that kind of thing. So they're kind of shepherd's huts and drovers cabins, they're known as in the old days. And that was my theme, is to build something that was for farm labourers. In the premise of wanting to buy myself a life, it's like buying yourself a house, you want it all decorated. I wanted it all decorated with like, I wanted to be entertained, if I'm honest. I just wanted to be entertained, and all these people that come and visit me, they pay me and they entertain me. That's all right. You know, there's no public, there's no high maintenance. I'm not open to the public as a public campsite. None of that. I've come up with some really inventive ideas here to make money, and I do quite well. My best one being my silver birch sap water. So this woodland at the back here is silver birch trees. On the full moon in March, I'd literally walk out to a tree, drill a hole in it, tap a steel tube in it, stick a silicone hose pipe on that into a demijohn. It fills up in a night, and I got £50 for a demijohn. Literally, it takes me 30 seconds, go to bed, and there's like as many. I've got 400 trees, so I could do 400 demijohns a night if I wanted. Honestly, everybody's always like, you can make loads out of that. I just can't be asked. I give it to my friend in the hotel in town. Somebody else makes ice cubes from it, from in a cocktail bar. I want to have food, I want to have a bit of wine and some petrol for my car. I'm not interested in making money. What motivates me is like next weekend I've got like 20 musicians turning up, and we're all going to get like, have a really great time and make loads of creative music. What does this lifestyle do? It makes you useful, makes you happy, makes me like grateful. I'm so grateful for what I've got. I'm so lucky and I want to share it. I never thought I'd ever achieve this. How the hell did I ever achieve this from like coming from like smack alley down Marsh Lane to here? I love that and I'm so grateful of my background because that's what made me able to interact with people around the world, and it certainly gave me no fear of the council. You know, my favourite part about living this way is actually discovering myself, finding out who I am, and that means a lot for us all. I feel a certain amount of contentment. Yeah, I still wallow come the winter time. I don't even want to get out of my bed. I want to Netflix it. To find the worst thing of it, mate, honestly, I'd struggle. I'd like more help around sometimes. Sometimes it's just me. I'm the only person who lives here, you know. So as I said, I don't have loads of people living here. That is through a choice. But also people come and stay. I'd struggle to find a downside to it. I really would. Other than the battle with the council, but it's over with now, so there's no battle anymore. The most important thing for me with Mellowcroft is to preserve it and to create a legacy. So it has to become a community interest company. I have to will it on to a charity aspect, or like, I may even leave it to a children's home, maybe Powys Young Carers or something, or a Young Carers Association. I would look at something like that rather than give it anywhere else. You know, there's a good phrase, you never own the land owns you. Never heard a more truer phrase, because you don't own the land. You can't beat the expression of nature. It will do what it wants to do. And when you're dead, the land is still there, you still don't own it. If somebody else owns it or thinks they own it, and they don't. I'd like to say this, if there's any creative musicians and artists, especially music and art collectives, who would like to put on music and art synopsises here at Mellowcroft, get in touch. This is what I offer. It's not a public space, it's for artists and creative energies. It's for volunteering, it's for growth, and for whether it be personal growth or as a band. If anybody's interested to get in touch, you can reach Mellowcroft at mellowcroft.co.uk. Find me easy enough on social media. It'll be in the link down below. Was that natural? Oh, that was natural, wasn't it?
Alright guys, thanks for watching another Liberation video. We hope you enjoyed that one. What a story that Eddie's got. Thanks to Eddie for showing us around his beautiful place.
If you like what we're doing with the channel, guys, let us know in the comments and leave us a like because it helps us out, and we'll see you in the next video.